Yeah, I thought I'd call my presentation today 11 years because I just spent 11 years at Google. And yeah, it was quite a ride. I'm forever grateful for that ride, and I left Google back in January. And yeah, it was my career's biggest achievement, I think, to spend that long at such a great company. And internally, I ran basically an incubator. I was working with engineers on the earliest technologies and prototypes and ideas to try and find market fit, use cases, prototypes. I then would orchestrate with my larger team strategy partnerships with big brands to really pressure test those ideas and those solutions. And if, fingers crossed, over time those solutions were to become successful, eventually they would become new product of Google and services by Google. So that was what I was doing. I was lucky enough to be able to do that. I was also lucky enough to travel the world with Google. I launched a vaccination program in Somalia. I organized or tried to organize a climate tech solution in APAC. And the interesting thing is that no matter where I went, what teams I was engaging with, what time zones I was in, cultures I was experiencing, teams I was working with, the thing that really stuck out to me was that at the end of the day, the recipe, if you wish, to drive impact, it's as simple as that. It's what you do and how you do it. And one could argue that the what is the big idea, but I'm a technologist at heart. I think we can make anything we want. It's all about what is the right thing to build. That's the mission in itself. What I learned over the years is that the how is much more difficult. How do you do the things that you want to do? And I've seen so many startups and teams fail because the how just didn't work. And so reflecting back on my 11 years at Google, whilst I was involved and fortunate enough to be involved in those big solutions that hopefully made an impact on the world, what I take away from Google is those 5 big lessons that I want to share with you when it comes to the how. It's how you run a startup, how you motivate a team, and how you actually get stuff done in the first place. And I see it every day. I work with a lot of startups, and I see those patterns that now I want to use that knowledge from Google to apply to the next generation of companies that hopefully will become the next Google. So that's what chapter 3 is all about. The first lesson I learned in the how bucket is build bridges. I've seen so many teams and projects fail because everyone was working in an operational silo. I was working on a large project where the brand didn't talk to the government, who didn't talk on the federal level, who didn't talk to the mayor's office, who didn't talk to the nonprofits. They all had their own KPIs, their own metrics, their own visions for success or failure, but there was no universal truth, and from the data perspective, nothing lined up. It was all over the place. And I think greed and competition is also a big negative influence that screwed a lot of those projects up. And I think there's nothing wrong with trying to break those silos and break those barriers and trying as much as we can to work with seemingly opposite teams or people to make magic happen. And even though build bridges seems so simple, trust me, in a huge organization or in a small startup doing big things, it's actually quite challenging. So build bridges is something that I spend a lot of time on. And actually, the person who hired me at Google, he told me, because I was ruffling some feathers by breaking down those barriers, and he said, Olivier, if you're pissing people off, you're probably doing the right thing. So I did a lot of that, because that's what it took to break down those barriers, and I just went for it. So that was a big lesson. And it's also easier to say sorry later than asking for permission, because then nothing gets done anyways. So I've done a lot of that. Lift your people. So that to me was like the difference between having a leader who keeps saying, I did this, and this is about we, because a startup to me is like a family. And also the team that I was able to build, it was a small team, 10 people, no layers, no bureaucracy, all that stuff. We all lifted each other. And I made sure, because I started the team, to send people in to represent the team, to go to big meetings, to talk on stages, and to celebrate together their achievements and the team's achievements. I've seen a lot of startups, run by egos, run it into the ground because for them, the reputation was sort of more important to them and talking about themselves than the team. And so that is also something that is very close to my heart when I work with startups and how I assess who I want to work with. It's a great idea, but let me tell me about yourself and your team, and how do you motivate people? How do you bring people along for the ride? So that to me is just as important than the actual solution. Be vulnerable. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of people that were talking all day, but they didn't really say anything. And I've also worked with a lot of people who just pretended they know everything, but they didn't really know, so they just talked around it. I believe that it's harder to say something in 2 sentences than, 5 paragraphs. And what I also learned over the years, talking to CEOs of the biggest CPG companies on this planet, when the CEO asked me a question, I really didn't know it. I was just honest and I said, I have no idea, but let me get back to you. And that to me is a quality that, again, I look in founders and their teams and their companies, because the questions that you can't answer are probably important questions for you to eventually answer to figure out the solution that helps your startup survive. And that is something, again, that I learned the hard way, because there are lots of egos, and I'm the opposite of that. It's all about being humble. And there's humility that comes with your responsibility as a startup founder, etc. And that is exactly it, model humility. And it's all about thinking about how to come across as humble yet direct with a technology that has the potential to change the world. That to me is a lot more exciting than just being on a big pedestal and talking about the product that, it's like the Hollywood sign. It's very shiny, but on the backside it's just cardboard. And it's also about inclusivity, include your team and think about how you can include everybody in your team and the wider team. So model humility and being humble about everything that you do is also something that is an important ingredient when I work with startups. And it is quite rare, sadly. And then the last point, I think we all here to change the world, and we all aspire to 10x every single idea. And I think what I've seen over the years, if you put all those ingredients together, I think that's the best foundation for you to hopefully over time deliver the impossible. Because, yeah, I'm a dreamer at heart. I spent 14 years in advertising as a creative person. I dream up ideas, and then it's all about how do I make those ideas real. And through technology, I think we can make it all now. So we're very lucky that it's 2023, we can make anything we want. And therefore, I think we are best equipped to literally deliver the impossible. And that's why healthcare is one of the key pillars of what my company now is all about. And actually, we were joking with John last night at dinner. Those ingredients, I think, are the foundation to eventually create $1 billion idea, or an idea that has an impact on 1 billion people. And everything that my little VC firm is now focused on is getting to that 1 billion number in any shape or form. So I focused on AI, blockchain, healthcare, and climate tech. And whilst I'm assessing the what, I spend a lot of time on the how, as you can tell, because those founders and teams, I think the team culture to some extent oftentimes is much more important than the thing that you want to build. So my company is called Chapter 3. Chapter 1 was in advertising, 14 years. Chapter 2 was at Google for 11 years, so now it's Chapter 3. You know, much better than Chapter 11, but that's my company. And I think what also makes this company sort of unique is that it's a combination of a small VC fund as like an angel investor, and also a VC firm. So I take active roles with all the disciplines and learnings that I've gathered over the years to take active roles in those companies that I support and finance and accelerate. from CMO role or board role or advisory role. I don't want to just put money down and wish them all the best and good luck. I actually want to be more involved and really roll up my sleeves, because I'm just, I'm a creative and a maker at heart, and that's how I want to operate and continue to operate, to get my hands dirty. But anyway, that is what I've got for you today. That's 11 years at Google summarized over 5 slides. And I hope you find it useful for those startups out there. But yeah, I'm here all day. I'm here all day tomorrow if you want to chat. And yeah, thank you.